touchdown. And he flips the ball to Rowdy to do with what he will.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another video, and today this is going to be a little different video than the rest. We're not going to talk draft strategy or talk about players. Today we're going to talk about the #1 way to play fantasy football, the most liberating way to play fantasy football, best ball. Okay, now some of you guys out there have probably heard of best ball and you're like, man, what is that? I mean, I see the promotions everywhere. If you type in pretty much any sort of fantasy football content creator out there, they're talking about best ball, they're drafting on best ball. And you guys are, probably some of you guys out there, granted, I was the same way when I was young, 17, 18, around that age, maybe on the cusp of 21, you're looking to get a little action on, some fantasy football that's not just, the home league with the buddies for $50. So totally understand. This video right here is going to give you the 101 to best ball. Or it could be, hey guys, if you've never heard of best ball in your entire life and you just want to, maybe you just want to know what it is. I mean, this video right here will get you all caught up to speed and introduced on what best ball is, in my opinion, why it's the best format for fantasy football. Now, tell you a quick personal story as to why this will probably come to, it'll all come together as to why I like best ball so much. But ever since I was a kid, and it almost intensified when I saw that horrible movie, Draft Day, when Kevin Costner was the lead, and you guys have probably seen the movie if you're into football. But ever since I was a kid, I had a huge affinity for the draft. I love the draft, the real life NFL draft. And then once I started to get into fantasy a little bit later, that's when I kind of realized, okay, this isn't real football, but you could basically draft a team and you could manage a team. Like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm drafting players, I'm building a team, I'm building a board. And I treated it a lot more serious than my buddies. And that's why, I was kicking their butt, plain and simple. When it came to later on in the years and going into my 20s and whatnot, I wanted to get action on a lot of fantasy football. And, I was already into betting and whatnot. But the thing is, I didn't want to manage 50 leagues, okay? Checking waiver wires on 50 leagues, hitting up 50 different managers, hey, trade this guy, trade that guy. Because I'm a guy, I like to kind of be in the game. I want to have everybody's number on my phone of who's in my league. I want to text them, hey, I want this player, what do you like? As if I were a GM. I mean, that's the fun part of fantasy, in my opinion. A lot of people out there, they say, oh, the fun part is Sunday. I think that's a completely casual take, okay? And I've already been accused myself of casual takes, but I think that right there is a casual take. In my opinion, the best part of fantasy is building the team, okay? Sunday is the craziness. Sunday, watch my players score, yada, yada. Eat chips and salsa with my buddies, drink beer, yell at the TV. To me, that's degenerative stuff. And, we all take part in it in some way or shape or form. So not to say that's, it's beneath me, but in my opinion, the best part of it is building the team. So I was really looking for a way, until about 3-4 years ago when I heard about best ball from a few of my favorite fantasy football content creators out there, guys that I like, guys that I follow, and they were going best ball. And really what is best ball is the draft. That's it. That's all you got to do. There's no waivers. There's no trades. Okay? It's just a draft. And a lot of you guys out there probably might sour or click off at that very moment thinking, man, what's the point? I mean, it's just the draft. I want to play. I want to set the lineup. I want to do, I want to trade some guys in the middle of the year. Well, if you want to do that, there's still plenty of managed leagues out there that you can join, high stakes managed leagues that you can join to perform any sort of fantasy, any sort of fantasy league that you want to be in. So there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But for guys like me, when I found best ball, I was hooked from the get-go. I love best ball and I love drafting. How best ball truly works, like I said, the draft is pretty much everything. But here's the twist on the draft. The draft is the same, okay? It's a snake draft. They might have it one day, but I don't know about auction best ball drafts. I mean, for me, that would just take too freaking long. I don't want to be sitting there all day. Best ball is something, in my opinion, that you want to, bust out. I mean, it sounds a little funny when I say it like that, but best ball is something that you just want to bang out quick. I mean, it's That sounds a little funny when I say it like that, but I mean, that's the truth. You want to get in as many drafts as possible. Best ball is a set it and forget it. Okay. Now, a lot of you guys are like, wait a second, I thought you said no lineups. That's the truth. There is no lineup. So how does best ball determine your scoring? It automatically starts the highest scoring players on your team. We'll give you an example. Let's say last year, okay, the running back from the Giants, Tracy, he was a 16th round pick last year. Say that he ended up scoring 2 touchdowns and he was the highest scoring player and you picked him in the 16th round, he will be in your starting lineup for that week as a starting running back with whatever point total that he had. And say you picked him with Bijan in the round 1, him and Bijan would be your starting running backs for that week. So it automatically prioritizes the top scoring players on your team in your starting lineup. And that's the case with everybody's team out there. So it's not like you have a leg up on anyone, but there's no more lineup faults. How many freaking times out there, myself included, have you guys gone, oh man, if I only started this dude, I would have won. Oh shit, if I started that guy, I would have won. You don't have to do that anymore. There's no more if I would have, should have, could have started this guy. That's all gone. That's another huge pro to best ball. Here's the thing that make it even less confusing. When it comes to the scoring, most best ball platforms are half PPR, and all that is just, most of you guys probably play on either standard or 1 point PPR. It's right in the middle, half PPR, half a point per reception. Okay, the rest of the scoring is pretty much the same. You could go on any sort of platform, probably the number one platform, which I'll get into, and no, they're not a sponsor, even though they should be a sponsor, is Underdog. I do want Underdog to one day, be a sponsor. And to be honest, Underdog, I don't even want any money. Just pay for my drafts. Just give me free rides into the drafts. I'm not expecting you to write me some big check just for, to have some freaking, dog logo behind me on this, crappy whiteboard that I got to take down. I just want free drafts. That's all I want. Just stake my drafts and we'll be all good. That's pretty much the layout of best ball when it comes to the draft and scoring and how it works. Now, what I do want to talk about with you guys is why is best ball the best format? Okay. I mean, some of you guys are either at this point, you're either hooked or you're just like, whatever. Like, I mean, it sounds cool, but it doesn't sound like, wow, like I'm over the moon about it. Number one, I'll give you about 5 reasons. Number one, the first reason, the time. Okay. This saves so much freaking time. I mean, a lot of you guys out there who are not 17, 18, 19, you're in your 30s and 40s and you got kids, you got to take the kids to school, you got all this nonsense going on, the old lady at home. Granted, I'm not at that point yet, but hey, I mean, maybe if I'm lucky, that day will come. You got crap to do. Plain and simple. You got a job, you got a life. You don't want to be on the freaking computer all day trying to craft trades, try to study this, try to make a lineup change, check the injury reports. You just want to play and watch the games on Sunday. Well, you don't have to do. That's basically what you can do. You can draft today, set it and forget it, and when Sundays come around to start the year, you could check your exposure list on Best Ball, which on Underdog is pretty simple. You check out your completed drafted players, go to your exposure list, you checked out your top players, who you have, and those are basically the players that you'll be rooting for on Sundays when you're watching the games. Okay, so that's pretty much one of the top reasons, in my opinion, for a lot of you guys that are on the older crowd. Now, a lot of you guys are in college, high school, and, in your early 20s, you don't got shit to do. So this might not appeal to you. But in a sense, I think that for a lot of the older crowd out there, that's a huge appeal. Number 2, like we just talked about, I should have started this guy. I should have started that guy. Okay, no more of that. The top players that scored that week. It could be the round 20th player. I mean, I had a friend out there, and he knows who he is. He actually spotted the Puka Nacua sleeper in 2023. And I told him, if he drafted Puka Nacua in the 18th round in every single best ball draft, he would be living in a penthouse in New York. And he just tells me to shut up every time I say that. But I mean, Puka Nacua would have been in the lineup, in the starting lineup every single week with a CeeDee Lamb and with a freaking, name some other top receivers and A.J. Brown, just et cetera. Like that would have been every single week. He would have had that starting lineup. He would have killed best ball. But That's and it wouldn't have even mattered if who we had to start, just because that's how best ball works. It could be your 20th round player. If that's the guy that ends up being the highest scorer, he's the highest scorer. Number 3, to bounce off that second point, is the skill in the draft is rewarded. Okay. Now, there's some guys out there, to be honest with you, and some guys that I play with, that they're really not that good at drafters, but they end up catching up to you because they finesse somebody who's the league taco in a stupid trade. They manage to suck early on, and then they get the highest priority on the waivers, and then some big-time waiver guy comes along. It rebounds their team a little bit, and before you know it, even though they had a crappy draft, they're right there next to you in the standings because they finessed some dumbass in a trade, and they got some free, basically what I call a free handout on the waiver wire, because a lot of you guys too harass the league managers about priority or not eliminate priority waivers and do bidding, okay, fab budget bidding waivers. So there's none of that stuff that goes on. There's nothing more that infuriates me than when people who have a bad draft end up doing well because they got rewarded handouts on the waivers and finesse somebody on a trade that rewarded them just because their buddy's an idiot. Probably the most infuriating thing in my opinion. So there's ways to work around that, but in best ball, there's no trades, there's none of that. That draft is everything. So if you're a good drafter, join best ball because there's a chance you can make some money. Now, another thing, number 4, the way you could draft is a little bit different. Okay. There's players, and I'm trying to think of an example that, you're going to want to embrace the boom or bust mentality on a best ball. So take it, maybe, I don't know if Devon A-Chain on the Dolphins is a good example, but he's kind of like a boom or bust player. Maybe a better example than him would be a Gabe Davis. Remember Gabe Davis, when he was on Buffalo a couple of years ago at those points, he had those big spike games of, 3-4 catches for like 150 yards just because Josh Allen would throw those deep balls. That's a player that you might want on best ball because weeks that he doesn't start, he'll just go to the bench and the other top scorers would be in your lineup. But if you had him in a season-long managed league where you had to make the decision yourself before the game started on whether to start him or not, it would cause you chaos because there'd be weeks where you start him and he would get, 2 catches, 20 yards, and you'd be like, crap, I lost a week because of this. And then you throw him on the bench next week and he has 3 catches, 140 yards. Now, there's probably other players out there that are better examples than that, but I think you guys know what I mean when I say that, especially if you've been playing fantasy in any sort of way for a couple, 2-3 years at this point. I'm sure you get what I mean. Number 5, it's the perfect way for a diverse portfolio of expanding your pot because of leagues. You could basically not only have a bunch of money spread out in a bunch of different leagues. So say your portfolio, say your bankroll is $500. That's how much you want to spend on fantasy. Now, some of you guys out there that might be, oh man, you're ridiculous. But hey, spend as much as you want to lose. That's always been the philosophy with anything gambling related, in my opinion. But you could spread it out over 100 different drafts if you really want to, and just give yourselves a lot of darts at the dartboard and chances to win. And you never know. One freaking draft, one team could recoup all that money. One team. Okay. My highest ever payout. Now, granted, I'm okay in best ball. Okay. Best ball is very freaking hard. If there's people out there telling you they got the code to best ball and they can beat the system, just make sure you look them in the face. That way you know the face they're making when they're lying to you. There's no way you could just wazam, I got the answer to best balls. It's basically like people saying wazam, I got the answers to beat the bookie and win all the games in sports betting. It just doesn't happen like that. So, but there are winners out there. I'm not going to disregard that. There's a lot of boom or bust. There's a lot of downside. There's a lot of upside. So another thing you could do, not only spread out your drafts, but you could change your draft strategy on multiple different drafts. So we'll talk about the strategies later on in different videos this summer. But some drafts you might want to go heavy at the top at running back. Some drafts you don't want to go at running back at all. Some drafts you want to take a quarterback early. Some drafts you're going to want to take quarterback late. Some drafts you might want to get Brock Bowers. Some drafts you're not going to want to take a tight end at all. You could diversify that as much as possible to your liking and then spread it out in a percentage way of like, I want this team with this much of this strategy, this team, this much of that strategy. And you could get really technical with it if you really want to and calculate it on a chart. I mean, it's as much as you want to put into it, guys. It's fun. Like, you could take this to as a very casual baseline level. You're the dad, you got a couple kids, you throw a couple money on some drafts, or you could really get technical with this and try to do 150 drafts. And I know guys like that. I mean, it's nothing to, I mean, I joke about it, but it's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, it's fun. Like, I enjoy it myself. Not to say that I'm at that stage, but I'm definitely more on the end of, you know, obviously being a sort of content creator, even though I don't like saying that because it's kind of cringy, but I'm on the upper spectrum of being heavily involved with best ball. So that's probably one of my favorite ways to really shake things up and try to give myself the best chance to win, is diversify my strategy and spread out my money as much as possible. And then probably this is the number one reason why you guys should play best ball. And I briefly mentioned it earlier, but I'm going to re-emphasize this now, is it's a great practice to dominate and destroy your buddies in your home league, okay? What do I mean by that? So if you're practicing the best ball drafts all throughout the summer, okay, these are ADPs that are very, very sharp. ADPs meaning average draft position, annual draft position, whatever. There's multiple. I think it's average draft position is the actual term, okay? So that number that you see by the player, it could be 45.3. That means that player is typically selected in the 45th pick across all the money platform drafts. Okay, so these are people, when, you know, a lot of people, granted, not everyone's an expert picking, but a lot of people that are putting money on the drafts are into fantasy. They're not idiots. They're not, you know, complete slappies. There are tons of slappies out there, but if you're putting money on a fantasy draft, the odds are that you're in tune with the NFL. You know what 32 teams are doing from a sake of just what's going on. You know the starting lineups on all the 32 teams. Okay. I'm not talking about like linemen and all that, but like, you know, like I could tell you, name me a receiver on the freaking Chargers. You could probably do that, right? Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. So you probably, you know what you're doing to some extent. Okay, now compare that to the worldwide leader, as I call it, ESPN or CBS Sports or Sleeper, whatever. What their ADPs and how they rank the players on their quote-unquote consensus board, that has no money statistical value behind it. That's just strictly off, not to name drop these guys, but that's just Field Yates throwing out a board. Oh, I like give me Ted McMillan as my 41st best player, with no money or statistical data behind that. Meanwhile, on Underdog, it tells you where that player should technically be picked because of where the sharp minds, if you want to phrase it like that, are picking them on that draft. Now, there's another platform out there that has high stakes leagues only, and that might be a better board to look off of and refer to for this practice, and that's called FFPC. I only do a couple of drafts on there a year because those are expensive drafts. Those aren't for the $3 and $5 players out there. If you want to only stick to that, then stay on Underdog. But if you guys want to move up a little bit, $100, $200 drafts, go on FFPC. But that board out there might be a better practice for what I'm talking about. You know, I'll give you an example of this. Last year, the sharp platforms were picking Rashee Rice from the Chiefs. They were picking him in the 3rd to 4th round. Okay. Meanwhile, on ESPN, he was down in like the 8th round. I mean, that was a total. Like, that's a huge gap. I mean, you're telling me you get Rashee Rice in the 8th round? Well, you shouldn't even wait to the 8th round. You should scoop him up in like the 5th to 6th round. Now, they ended up coming around on that as like right before the season started, but there were some drafts where you could have gotten him like 2 rounds later. Now, granted, he got hurt and all, but that could easily win your league. Just one pick like that where you spot a huge difference, that could win your league. Okay? Devon Achane was another guy. He was a round 2 player on sharp platforms. On the casual, you know, worldwide leader websites like that, he was a round 4 player. That's a huge difference. Okay, so there's a lot of players out there, and we'll go through that as the season, you know, progresses or as the offseason progresses and we get down to that point. But just keep an eye out for that stuff, guys, because that is a huge huge difference maker. Now, I just want to run through some common misconceptions. There's some misconceptions out there with best ball. Number one, oh, there's no interaction. I can't text my friends in the league that I just drafted. No, okay, unless you know their usernames and you can hit them up on a social media platform, or maybe, you know, I've done it with a couple buddies. Like, hey, we're gonna hit the button 3, 2, 1. Let's join a best ball draft together. That usually could work out. If that's not the case, no, there's usually no interaction. But like I said, I mean, there's other leagues out there. That's why in managed leagues, I do want the interaction. I do want to text the people that I'm in the league with. But in this case where I'm trying to fire off drafts, I'm not trying to, you know, it's too many people. So there is no interaction in this, just to keep it point blank here. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, if you're just firing off these drafts, that doesn't require a lot of skill. You could just, you know, fire from the hip and just stick darts on the dartboard. Now, there's a huge difference in the skill gap between what you're doing when you would compare these drafts as to draft playing against, you know, your buddies in your home leagues. Your buddies in your home leagues they're on their rear right now. They're sleeping. They're probably checking Twitter or whatnot. But these guys in best ball leagues, guys, they're doing their homework. They're doing the research. They're reading the reports. They're looking at trends. They're watching the highlights, whatever they got to do. I mean, they're on top of this shit, all right? Most people, because they're into it. I'm into it as well. It's a hobby. It's fun. I want to make this, you know, something that I could do one day, and I have a feeling I could do that. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to win the BBM, but, you know, I genuinely enjoy watching football. It's a pleasure of mine. It's a hobby. So I like doing the homework. Meanwhile, your buddies in your home league who are snoozing right now are not doing their homework. So there's just because you think you could fire off a bunch of drafts, you're doing drafts against a bunch of people who are higher up in skill level. So there's no less skill to this whatsoever. Now, there's another thing. You got to have more research on the bottom end players, which is probably my favorite part of this. The 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th rounds, whatever, those aren't rounds for your home leagues. You're not even going to have that. You're going to get to the 14th round and you're cut off because you got to fucking pick a kicker and a defense. So in that case, you're pretty much going to not really know about any of the lesser guys. Now, in this case, you're going to know about those smaller end guys, you know, last year, like a Tyrone Tracy on the Giants, because I was picking him in best ball drafts. So in my home leagues, he was on the waiver wire. So in one of the leagues, I just scooped him up early on in like September, and he ended up becoming a starter for me through October and November. And I got him for absolutely free. Meanwhile, the guys, there were Giants fans in that league. I'm from New Jersey. There are Giant fans that didn't even pick him up. Plenty of Giant fans. So that goes to show right there, like, you know, this is why you want to do these drafts. You can get ahead on a lot of those guys. 2 years ago, another example, Isaiah Pacheco, or not even 2 years ago, 3 years ago at this point, Isaiah Pacheco. He was a bottom. You can get Isaiah Pacheco, one of the last picks in the draft, down the line when the Chiefs went on that Super Bowl run, you know, in their, I think the first Super Bowl run, first Super Bowl run where they beat the Eagles. That's when Pacheco ended up becoming a really nice player down the line, and you got him for absolutely free. And I picked him up in one of my leagues on the waiver wire because I knew about him from the best ball draft. So this gives you an advantage to get a head start on, you know, waiver wire guys for your home league. So you could even be on top of that and just kill your buddies in terms of talent accumulation. But there's that end of the stick too. That's another thing that all these guys in the league are doing. So knowing those, you know, third receivers, backup running backs, that's something you got to do your homework on, because I can't, you know, if I asked you guys, most of you guys out there couldn't tell me the backup running back on the Chiefs or, you know, the third receiver on the Panthers. I mean, it's just not something you have off the top of your head. So that's stuff right there you got to be on top of if you want to be successful in best ball. Not saying you got to have every roster memorized, but take a look and try to find some of those deep sleepers, because that could win you some best ball money. Now, another thing, player stacking. That's another strategy that you got to watch out for in best ball. That's a very, very, very common trend. Basically, when people are stacking, they're trying to maximize the output for that week. So, an example last year, let's say if I was a huge fan of Nico Collins, Okay. Now, even though CJ Stroud didn't really have a great year last year, I was drafting I was drafting a lot of Nico Collins. Now, in some of the drafts that I drafted Nico Collins, I just said, screw it, I might as well draft CJ Stroud. What's the reason behind that? Because if Nico Collins has a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game, the odds are that CJ Stroud is probably going to have a good game as well, and vice versa. That's something that's very, very common in best ball and something to look out for. And the last thing I'll look out for, and I can't really, to be honest with you, there's other YouTubers that can give you a better explanation of this, but a lot of the guys that win best ball, they pay attention to the week 17 correlation, the week 17 matchups. In large tournaments, what happens is you go through your week 1 to 14 format, okay? You're basically playing head to head. You're basically playing point accumulation. There's no head to head in best ball. I should emphasize that, and I should have emphasized that a while ago. There's no head to head in best ball. You're not playing against this guy for the week and then, the highest score wins and you get a record. All you're doing is you get your point accumulation off your lineup, okay? And then that's your points for the week. Your week 1 through 14 point output is accumulated together, and that's your output for the entire year. The top 2 to 3 players advance on to the next pool in week 15 for the wild card matchup. Then it gets really hard because you got to get top 3 in the wild card pool out of those 12 teams. Then you get advanced to week 16, week 17. And week 17, why people pay so much attention to that is because if you are lucky enough to get to that point, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars on the line. You want to have the best players for that matchup. And not only that, but you want teams that you're going to want players that are on teams that are playing against each other. Now, one reason you want the week 17 correlation is because imagine one of those games becomes a shootout, okay? One player scores, one quarterback scores, they're up 14-0. The other team's got to fire back on offense to win this game. They go to 14-14, then this team scores, this team, they're in a rhythm, and you get some 30, 40-point game back and forth. We're talking about huge fantasy potential in that game, and that's week 17 where we have thousands and thousands of dollars on the line. So right there, that's a very advanced strategy that a lot of players who end up winning the tournament, they take that very seriously, and they try to come up with stacks on their own through models, through just trial and error in drafts, and trying to formulate the best week 17 stack to win them the money. Now, there's other YouTubers out there that are more proficient in this. I could probably explain it a lot better than me in that case. But I'm just telling you guys the basics, just what to look out for when you're going into these drafts. And again, plenty of other guys that are a lot better than me. But in the end, guys, that pretty much, I can go on and on about best ball. I think we'll pause it right there because I don't want to start getting into advanced trends and stuff like that. That might not be my territory. So if you like the video and you want to join best ball, go for it. Go to Underdog, sign up today. And I wish I could give you a promo code, but Underdog ain't sponsored me yet. So maybe this is a motivation for them to sponsor me. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.